Today we're diving into one of the most complex puzzles in medicine, lupus, and we're going to look at a crucial clue that's changing absolutely everything, what's being called the interferon story. You see, systemic lupus erythematosus, or SLE, it's notoriously tricky to pin down. It's a chronic autoimmune disease, but it's also incredibly heterogeneous. What that really means is that it can look completely different from one person to the next. It's truly a single disease with 1,000 faces.
So, with a disease this complicated, where do you even begin? Well, what if the key to this whole mystery is a biological alarm system, one that's designed to protect you, but has gotten stuck in the on position and just will not turn off?
All right, let's start with that core problem. For both patients and doctors, the biggest challenge is that lupus is a master of disguise. The sheer variety of symptoms is what makes it so incredibly hard to get a handle on.
Think about it. One patient might show up with skin rashes, while another has debilitating joint pain that feels like arthritis. Someone else could be dealing with serious kidney damage, what's known as lupus nephritis, or just this crushing persistent fatigue and fever that never seems to let up. It can even mess with the central nervous system, causing things like psychosis or trigger blood disorders. All these symptoms seem totally unconnected, which is exactly why getting a diagnosis can be such a long and frustrating journey.
So where do we find the common thread in all this chaos? Well, it turns out it lies deep within our own biology, in a system you could call the body's viral alarm. The official name is the type 1 interferon system.
Okay, let's break down how this is supposed to work. Normally, this system is our first line of defense against viruses. When a threat is detected, the body sounds an alarm by releasing these proteins called type I interferons. That signal mobilizes our immune cells, which then rush to the scene and neutralize the intruder. It's a really elegant and effective system for keeping us healthy.
But in lupus, something goes wrong. That beautifully designed protective system malfunctions. The alarm gets stuck in the on position, constantly screaming that there's a threat, even when there's nothing there. And with the body's defense system in a state of perpetual high alert, it eventually turns on itself.
Now, what's really fascinating is that scientists can actually measure how loud this false alarm is blaring. They do it by looking at something called the interferon gene signature, or IFNGS for short. You could think of it as a biological readout that shows the volume of that interferon alarm. And what they've discovered is that a huge number of lupus patients have a persistently high signature.
And when you actually see it visualized, the contrast is just striking. In a healthy person, interferon activity is low, it's stable. But in so many lupus patients, that activity is dramatically and constantly cranked way up. We're not talking about a minor little blip here. This is a fundamental difference in their entire biological state. And this high interferon signature isn't just some abstract number on a lab report. No way. It has very real-world consequences. It's been directly linked to how severe the disease is. It's associated with that skin and kidney damage we talked about. It correlates with higher levels of self-attacking molecules called autoantibodies, and it's even tied to those relentless feelings of fever and fatigue. It's so powerful, it can even help predict when a patient might be heading for a future flare-up.
So, this discovery completely shifted the focus for researchers. It's not just about treating the symptoms anymore. Now, they're tracing the molecular faults to figure out precisely why this alarm is broken in the first place. This represents a huge leap from studying the phenotype, which is just what we can see on the surface, like rashes or joint pain, to understanding the endotype. The endotype is the why underneath it all, the specific biological driver causing those symptoms. And for many lupus patients, that endotype is an overactive interferon pathway. It's all about getting to the root cause.
This means we can now zoom in and find the specific faulty wires. Take the ITGAM gene, for example. In its normal, non-risk version, it helps immune cells do their job properly. But there's a common lupus risk variant that leads to lower protein levels and messes with its function. That one tiny genetic change can disrupt the entire system and contribute to that haywire alarm.
So, how do they find these connections? Well, researchers use these incredibly powerful bioinformatic tools, like one called Megina. You can think of it as a molecular detective. It sifts through massive amounts of gene data from thousands of patient samples to find groups of genes that are all acting together, in concert. Then it links those groups directly to specific symptoms, revealing the hidden molecular machinery driving the disease.
And this is where the story gets really, really hopeful. Because this deep understanding of the broken alarm system is leading directly to new, much smarter ways to mute it.
So instead of just broadly suppressing the entire immune system, which can have a lot of side effects, these modern therapies can be way more precise. It's like being a surgeon instead of using a sledgehammer. Some drugs aim to block interferon production right at the source. Others work by blocking the receptor, basically the ear that hears the alarm signal, so the message never gets through. And a third strategy is to inhibit the signaling pathways that happen after the alarm is heard, interrupting the chain reaction.
And we have a perfect real-world example of this in action. A therapy called anifrolumab is what's known as a monoclonal antibody, and it's designed to block a specific part of that interferon receptor. In effect, it puts earmuffs on the cells, so they can't hear that screaming false alarm. And not surprisingly, it works particularly well for those patients who have that high interferon gene signature we've been talking about.
So this isn't just about another new drug. We are talking about a major paradigm shift. As one source put it, the clinical trials for these targeted therapies may have marked the very first real step towards true precision medicine for lupus patients. We're finally treating the specific molecular cause in the right group of people instead of using a one-size-fits-all approach that helps some and not others.
And all of this leads to a pretty incredible final question. By decoding these specific biological drivers, like the interferon signature in lupus, scientists aren't just finding better treatments for one illness. They're creating a whole new blueprint. See, you have to wonder, could our own personal molecular signatures be the key that unlocks the future of all medicine?